Trust you're good. So today I want to discuss something like title understanding a playmaker, the concept of money. Understanding the concept of money. Understanding the concept of money. Because what I have noticed is a lot of persons have spent a lot of time trying to make money, chasing, running, doing all they can to make money. Some legitimately putting in their all in an attempt to make money. But what you realize, actually, thank you. What you realize is a lot of young persons, even some older people, actually have not understood the concept of money making. That's what I noticed. They've not understood the concept of money making. Yesterday on my WhatsApp post, I made a post and I said, on my WhatsApp status rather, I made a post and I said, until you start realizing that you need to go very deep into the ground or very high into the sky before you can generate real money. And they are wondering why their effort is not yielding results. They assume that busy should equal money. Being busy, being actively productive, not resting should actually mean they should be making money. But that is far from the truth. That is far from the truth. And what I want to do this evening is to try to help us understand the concept of money. Who is on landscape? Okay, so I need to turn it back like this. Please confirm on YouTube if this is better. I was trying to make it fill the screen. So, what I'm trying to make us see is what money is, so that maybe we would have a reorientation on how to make money. On how to make money. Now, for us to understand what money is, let me start from the basics, which we all know. You remember that a while back, what we had was something called trade by barter. Thank you, Wizzy. Trade by barter. Trade by barter simply meaning if I need to get a cord, but what I have is a remote, I would need to exchange my remote for a cord. I'm going somewhere because if we are able to understand the basics or the real concept of what money is, it would help you redirect your financial goals for 2026, and it would help you think better on how to really make money. So back to my example, if I needed Discord, but what I have is a remote, it means I am going to look for somebody who is willing to exchange. Or at the beginning, what you just do is you bring your remote and pick up whatever you want. Now, the problem with that was the process was not fair. The process was not fair because if, for example, I needed tomatoes, but what I have is cow, I am exchanging my cow for tomatoes, which means what I am exchanging for tomatoes is not directly proportional to what I am getting, right? What I am exchanging for tomatoes is not directly proportional to what I am getting back. So there was this thing of this thing is not fair. This thing is not fair because I can be giving out so much and getting so little. So for every transaction that happened then by trade by barter, there was always somebody who was pleased with the transaction and somebody else who felt robbed in the transaction. So, what then happened was some people intentionally started keeping back, holding back, meaning I want a remote, but I am looking for somebody who would exchange something of equal value, in quotes. And that was not an easy process. So, what happened? Trade by barter then said, let us look out for things that people need regularly. Remember, this is years and donkey and decades of years ago. What are those things that people need regularly, such that we can use those things as a basis to hold and exchange, to hold and to use for exchange? In those days, the two things that people needed regularly were metals, especially in the form of weapons, and swords. The two things that people needed then, metals, iron, but in the form of a weapon, either a cutlass, a gun, an arrow, but in the form of a weapon, and swords, as simple as swords was or is. Now, what that meant was I can easily exchange what I have for swords and just hold it, such that whenever I needed something else, rather than give my remote for a cord, I can easily give my sword for a cord. So swords and metals became a form of exchange, which means the earliest form of money was swords and metals, but metals in the form of weapons. In the form of weapons, whether you call it arrow for hunting, for fighting, for whatever it was, in the form of a weapon, properly done with your blacksmith and all of that. But you see, that in itself also was still not seen as fair. Because now let me rewind back a bit so that would make sense. It means that if I need remotes and you have remotes, I can give you my swords. Hey, my Oga, I'll be joining you by 8 p.m. The Billionaire Farmer, join him by 8 p.m. on YouTube. I can give you my swords in exchange for whatever it is you want to give. So, the first form of reserve, so you understand where the term foreign reserve and all of that came in. The first form of reserve started from salt and metal. But you see, there was an issue. There is a limit to the amount of salt that you can keep. Because water can come in and everything spoils. It means that what you are now using for reserve can be spoiled by nature or by error. Right? On the flip side, the problem with metal was the weight. So people started thinking, what else can we use as replacement? Salt is light but prone to getting spoiled. Metal does not spoil easily but too heavy to transport. So the next thing that became a source of exchange was our cowries, seashells. But you see, this is where I'm going. The problem with using seashells, cowries, as a form of exchange is I can easily go to the river bank, pick up cowries, and I have become rich, and come use that cowries as a form of exchange. Because what they realized then was, wait, if what is used as a form of exchange is readily available, then the availability of that thing reduces the value of what it can buy. Let me explain what that means. Imagine right now we say, let me look for something that is easily accessible. If you are in the the southwestern part of Nigeria, imagine right now we say, instead of money, anytime you need to do anything, hi Abraham, on your farmer, anytime you need to do anything, pick up a stone, any pebble, any stone, use that pebble as a means of exchange. What would happen? Automatically you realize that the supposed poor of the society becomes rich overnight. Which means what also happens is those things that you thought were meant for the rich becomes accessible to the poor, right? Which automatically means that those things lose their value. So the value those things carry is based on the fact that everybody cannot access it. Higher accessibility reduces value. Unavailability increases value. Let me bring it back to economics so that you would follow closely. Demand and supply. When supply is more than demand, what happens? The price of what you are supplying becomes very low, because what you are supplying is readily available. But when demand is more than supply, the value of that thing that you are supplying becomes high. Are we still together? So it means that what will determine my wealth is understanding availability and unavailability. Because if what I am doing is readily available, then that thing should not command a lot of funds. If what I am doing is readily available, I cannot charge premium. So availability or accessibility is why you cannot make too much money. We're still together. I'll take it step by step. I would pause there. Back to the story of the cowries. What then did they realize? If people can go to the river bank, pick up cowries, bring those cowries and say, hey, I want to buy something, then we have not found a proper system yet for exchange. Then, if you go back, the first set of people to produce what we call money today were the Chinese in 770 or 750 BC. Long ago, 770 BC. And when they developed money, what they then decided was, okay, if we need to make money have value, what we are going to do is take a pound. That's their own version. I'm just using a pound as an example. Make coins. So the first set of money were in form of coins. Hi, Chucky. The first set of money were not in form of notes. They were coins. So what they did was, just an example, they had a coin that is 1 pound. Such that when I say this coin is a pound, the true value of that coin is a pound. Meaning, let's say this is gold bar, and I am saying this gold bar is worth 1,000 naira. So I am now saying, for every time I give you this gold bar, I have given you 1,000 naira. So what they did first when they developed money was to develop a means of exchange that was directly the same value as what it was exchanging. So, meaning, if I give you 1,000 naira, the thing, high pressure shine, the thing that you are holding is actually 1,000 naira in worth. Meaning, so that was why the first form of exchange was gold. Gold, copper, silver, depending on the country. But they soon realized that this was an issue. And what was the issue? The issue was for government to say they are printing money, whether gold bar, silver, copper, whatever they were printing, because they were printing the exact value of what they were giving, meaning this is gold, this gold is worth 5,000 naira, and it is costing us 5,000 naira to print it. The problem was every time government printed money, government was losing money. Every time government printed money, government was losing money. And for that sole reason, government had no incentive. Government had no incentive to want to print money, because printing money was like knowing that you are doing something you will run at a loss. It's just like you are going to the farm and you know that this thing I'm going to have money. The people have no option than to accept this as money, and this becomes a legal tender. And once governments of the world, at this point now, the central bank now had been formed. Why was that central bank? Why was it? Why did they need to form it? There needed to be a control of how much cash was in circulation. I'm going somewhere. So once there was now a body that would say, okay, this is money, automatically there was no need to spend so much money printing expensive money. We still together, right? At this point, it meant that every time government now printed money, government was making a profit. Meaning, before, government will print this for 1,000 naira, and the value of this was 1,000 naira, which means government did not make any profit in printing this, rather they made a loss, because they paid, in quotes, the printer 1,000 naira that gave this money that its value is 1,000 naira. So the money paid for printing this becomes an automatic loss for the government. But today, when government prints 1,000 naira note, they don't spend even up to 50 naira. The balance on top becomes the profit to the government. The balance on top becomes the profit to the government. And in economics, that profit is called seigniorage. Seigniorage. It is the profit the government gets from printing money, seigniorage. But you see, the problem is, or the advantage of that profit is, that profit that the government has generated from printing money helps the taxpayers' burden to be reduced, because that money, that excess profit, reduces the burden on taxpayers. I would pause. I don't know if we understand what I've said so far. Just a yes. Anybody say yes? Let me be sure we are still together. Let me be sure we are still together. Just want to get a yes to be sure I'm communicating. Okay, thank you, sir. Yes, okay, thank you, sir. So, what we then have is the profit made. My daddy, Pagorala, good evening, sir. The profit made from printing money is called seigniorage, and it goes to the government. Now, the question somebody would ask is, if government can make money from printing money, if there is a good profit being made by printing money, why is the government not just printing money and let us not have tax burdens? Why are they not just printing money and take care of infrastructure, hospitals, etc.? Now, this is the reality. If the government can go into uncontrolled money printing, we are now going to have something called inflation. Remember where I started from, the concept of the cowries. If I can just go and pick cowries from the bank of a river and use that cowries to purchase things the way I like, then the thing that I have access to buying, the value will come down because the money is readily available. Right? So if government chooses to say, okay, let's just be printing, there will now be too much money in circulation. A better way to say that, there will be too much cash in circulation. And that excess cash in circulation would mean that everybody can afford everything. And remember, when the supply of cash becomes too much, the demand for cash will reduce. And thank you. And the supply of cash will mean that the price of things will drop drastically. So, not the price of things, the price of things would increase drastically for no reason. Because with too much cash in circulation, this remote that's supposed to be 1,000 can suddenly become 80,000 naira because there's too much cash. I have so much money to throw at things. You have so much money. Your neighbor has so much money. Everybody has so much money. So the only way the rich can differentiate themselves from the poor is for the price of things to go astronomically high. We are still together, right? So, which means although the government can print cash, they must ensure that they put a leash on how much cash that they print. This is where it gets beautiful. This is where I'm going. Because you see, the cash economy is the economy for the poor. The non-cash economy is the economy for the rich. I will say that again. The cash economy, the economy that is ruled by cash, take money, physical cash, is the economy for the poor. The digital economy, the digital money, what people call fiat money, is the economy for the rich. If you study money globally, you will realize that all the cash in the world only make up about 3% of the money on earth. All the cash in the world only make up about 3% of the money. So there is more money that is digital than the money that is cash. I would pause there. Now I will go back again to the beginning. From the story I have said so far, why then was money created? Thank you, Maoga. Why then was money created? Why did they create money? Money was created for two things. Number one, money was created, that's the common one everybody knows, as an exchange of value. You have something valuable, I give you the cash that is valuable to me, we exchange. Number two, as a store of value. As a store of value. Hi, good evening on YouTube. As a store of value. Meaning, the cash that I have is a store of the value that I have kept. So, if I say, oh, I have 10,000 naira in my bank account, that 10,000 naira in my bank account is a value of what 10K can afford. Let's assume 10K can give us 10 loaves of bread. So the value that I have stored in my account is the equivalent of 10K, or the equivalent of 10 loaves of bread, right? Now, the same way, if somebody says, oh, I have 100M in my account, that 100M is a store of value. We're still going somewhere. Now, if we understand what I just said, what being a store of value means, then we take it to the next step. Who is in charge of money? Who is in charge of money? The banks. Better put, commercial banks under the regulation of central banks of the various nations. Right? Commercial banks under regulation of central banks. Now, have you ever asked yourself, how come banks, despite how bad we said the economy was last year, every year Nigeria says the economy was bad, the economy was this, the economy was that, but banks regularly post, what's that thing called? They always net positive in their profits. Constantly. They are always net positive in their whatever, in their balance sheets. Why is that so? You see, one of the major things that a bank has the power to do is to create digital funds. What CBN or central banks in Nigeria and some other nations have done is taking the power to create cash away from commercial banks. They've taken that power, tell me, good evening, that power away from them, but they still retain the power to create digital money. I'm not talking about crypto. Which means if I go to the bank today and I tell the bank I want to borrow 100 million naira, the 100 million naira the bank is crediting into my account, I want you to hear this clearly, is not another person's money. It is not another person's money. No. That money was digitally created. Before that money hit my account, that money did not exist. Before that money entered my account and I got account balance of so and so, that money never existed before. That money was created out of thin air. I'm going somewhere. Now, ask yourself this question. I'll come back and explain that, but ask yourself this question. Which one is easier to get, or which one is easier to create? Have a system to print cash and give to you, or have a system that digitally creates money and credit your account? Which of the two is easier? I can hear my other phone ringing. Please, let's answer. Just say A or B. Cash or digital. Which one is easier? Sorry, I'm moving again. Which of the two would be easier to create? Cash or digital? Sorry, I had to move. Don't know if this place is clear. Digital, okay. Now, the question I then need us to ask ourselves is, as a business, which of these two are we running after? Look at your business today.